So we're actually in what we call the immersive room. The idea is that we took over a small room here in Parc Pidouze in order to be able to reproduce somehow partially what it's like to be inside that cave. So what you're seeing in the screen behind me is actually two of my students at Init Lab in ETS that are currently setting up one of our aerostable. So aerostable is basically an hybrid between a drone and a lighter than air or an airship. So that's what they're putting up over there. And what we're doing for until the 16th of August, what we're doing here is basically to deploy different versions of those prototypes that we've built specifically for this cave so that it can explore and retransmit what they're seeing in this immersive room here for the audience, for the public to witness. Well, so the first, this cave is known for quite a while, this guided tour, one that's going to start in a couple of minutes for what we call the public part of the cave. So those parts are known for a long time. Now, a couple of years ago, a group of speleologists here discovered a new part of that cave. And this new part is exactly where we're deploying our robots. This new part is not accessible to the public. So it's only speleologists that can go there and some of our students that have been trained in order to go there, such as the one that are currently deploying our robot. So there's no one from the audience right now that can go there and witness those parts. And it's the biggest part of the cave that is actually not accessible to the public. So we're speaking about hundreds of meters of tunnels that are immersed. So you need to go there by kayak. You may see the kayak that my students are currently on board. And so you need to go through with the kayak in order to cross all those hundreds of meters of tunnels on the ground. And so what we're trying to do here is, well, first give a view for the audience of that place that they cannot go by themselves, right? So it's an inaccessible part of the cave, but also to deploy an artistic installation in that place. So my partner in this project, Nicolas Reeves, he's an international artist and professor at UQAM, and part of his research creation program targets artworks that are deployed in inaccessible environments. So we call them the observatory of the inaccessible or unreachable places. And so that's just one of his observatory that we're deploying here so that no one can actually witness the actual artwork, which is the cavernoid being deployed in the cave. So all the design and all the trajectory planning, all the motion of the robot with the geometry and everything was thought in order to be coherent with an artistic deployment there. But no one can actually witness that artistic deployment. You can only witness the broadcast of it in this room, right? It's actually part of what we needed to do. So that part has already been done. So we mapped there. So we've been working on this project for about a year. And so my students and I have been going to that cave several times already with our infrastructure and our custom electronics made in order to be able to move over there and map the cave. So we do now have an accurate point cloud. So construction of the full cave, at least for the part that is accessible by human, because at some point the river goes underground and you can just not follow it anymore unless you go underwater, right? So we didn't map that part. We map where we stop without any underwater equipment. And yeah, so now we have this huge map of the whole cave that we're using actually partially for navigating the robots, but also for Spéléo Québec to be able to have that tool in order to share the geometry and the length and the aesthetic of that cave, right? Well, you know, the two main aspects for me in doing that, because we're a research lab at ETS, right? So we're doing engineering, and we don't need to do that in order to do our work in engineering. And if I dive into those kind of projects, it's first because it's super motivating for the students. They really like getting out of the lab and getting into really harsh, unpredictable, and unconventional environment. in order to deploy what they've been working for months or years in the lab. So that context is super exciting, super challenging also, a bit exhausting for the students and everyone to be able to deploy that. But that's what we call field robotics and extreme field robotics that we're doing here, and it's part of our DNA at our lab. And then the other part is working with artists. That brings us to those kind of setups, but that brings us also into another mindset when we develop our technology. And that's really important to me when we do research, not to do it only, between engineers, between roboticists, but to really open that in order to have a more holistic view of what we do, and to be able to be more critic about what we're doing and to deploy that in a context where we're collaborating with different actors with that. So that's key, I think, to contemporary research in robotics.